Part 1. The Distress Call. The vast emptiness of space wrapped around the Taiwan Armada like a cold blanket. 73 sleek vessels drifted silently against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars, their once powerful engines now silent. Inside the command center of the flagship, Admiral Kang stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his four eyes fixed on the main display showing system failures cascading across the fleet. "Status report," he said quietly. Though everyone already knew their dire situation, Officer Bay looked up from her console, her silver skin reflecting the red emergency lights. "All quantum drives remain offline, Admiral. Engineering teams report no progress on repairs. The cosmic anomaly damaged. Systems we cannot fix with our available tools." The Admiral nodded slowly. Their fleet had been traveling through what their star charts indicated was a routine section of the Orion Arm, when all 73 ships suddenly lost power to their main drives. Something in this region of space had interfered with their quantum technology. Technology that had reliably carried the Taiwan civilization across thousands of light years for centuries. "Life support status?" he asked, dreading the answer. 14 days remaining at current capacity, Officer Bay replied. "Less if we divert power to communications." The Admiral moved to the large viewing window, watching distant crew transport pods traveling between ships. 50,000 of his people, scientists, soldiers, families, all stranded in unknown space, 12,000 light-years from home. No rescue could possibly arrive in time. "Divert power to long-range communications," he ordered. "Broadcast distress signals on all frequencies, including the primitive radio bands. We cannot afford to miss any possibility of help." Lieutenant Han, young for his position but brilliant with communications technology, worked quickly at his station. "Admiral, there's something else you should know. The cosmic anomaly that disabled our drive seems to have pushed us slightly off our charted course. We're on the edge of a star system not marked in our database. Hope was dangerous in their situation, but the Admiral allowed himself to feel a spark of it. "Is it inhabited?" "Unknown, sir, but I've detected artificial signals. Very basic compared to ours, but definitely not natural." The command center fell silent. In all their centuries of exploration, the Taiwan had encountered only 17 other intelligent species. Meeting another, especially in their moment of greatest vulnerability, was both terrifying and potentially their only chance for survival. "How long would it take for a signal to reach the source of these transmissions?" the Admiral asked. "At standard communication speeds, approximately 6 hours, Han replied. Admiral Kang nodded grimly. "Then we have no choice. Send the universal distress pattern on all frequencies. Include basic mathematical sequences to demonstrate intelligence." The next 12 hours passed with excruciating slowness. The command staff took turns resting, though few could actually sleep. The Admiral remained at his post, watching as the fleet's systems continued their slow decline. Engineer Jun reported from below decks that without the specialized tools waiting for them at their destination, the quantum drives were beyond repair. "Admiral!" Lieutenant Han suddenly called out, his voice cracking with excitement. "I'm receiving a response to our signal." The command center erupted in activity as officers returned to their stations. The main display shifted to show an incoming transmission, crude by Taiwan standards but clearly artificial. "It appears to be a mathematical response to our sequence," Han explained as symbols appeared on screen. "And there's more. Crude visual data. I believe they're attempting to establish communication." For the next several hours, Han worked tirelessly to establish a basic communication protocol with the mysterious responders. The Admiral watched as simple images were exchanged, followed by basic concepts: greeting, danger, help. "Sir," Han finally said, looking up with wide eyes, "I believe they're sending us their coordinates, and based on their signal strength, they're coming toward us." 3 days later, the sensor officer's voice cut through the tense silence of the command center. "Unknown vessel approaching, Admiral. Small craft, minimal shielding, using chemical propulsion. Primitive by our standards, but it's heading directly for us." On the main display, a tiny ship appeared, barely the size of a Taiwan shuttle. Its design was utilitarian, with large solar arrays and external equipment attached seemingly without concern for aesthetics. "They're broadcasting a message," Han announced. "I've processed it through our newly established communication matrix. Audio only." A voice filled the command center, the first alien voice any of them had heard in person. It spoke words none of them understood, but the translation matrix quickly converted. "Taiwan Fleet, this is Captain Kim of the Earth vessel Horizon. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. Please guide us to a docking location if possible." Admiral Kang felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The vessel was so small, so primitive compared to their massive ships. What could these beings possibly do to help? And yet, they had responded to the call when no one else could. "Guide them to the main docking bay," he ordered. "Prepare a first contact team with translation devices." As the tiny Earthship approached the massive Taiwan flagship, Admiral Kang wondered what sort of beings they would meet. Whatever they were, they had already accomplished one miracle. They had given his people something they'd nearly lost. Hope. Part 2. First Contact Captain. Kim took a deep breath as the Horizon's docking clamps secured against the massive alien vessel. Through the viewport, the sheer scale of the Taiwan flagship was breathtaking, at least 2 kilometers long with a sleek design that made her exploration vessel look like a child's bathtub toy in comparison. "Final checks," she ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. Her small crew moved with practiced efficiency despite the historic nature of the moment. Lieutenant Park verified atmosphere readings while Communications Officer Su adjusted his translator device one last time. "Readings show their air is breathable for us," Park reported. "Slightly higher oxygen content than Earth normal, but within safe parameters." Captain Kim nodded. "Remember your training. We're here to help, not to gawk." She smiled slightly. "Even though I know we all want to." The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss, revealing a brightly lit corridor. Standing just beyond were 3 figures that made the humans pause despite their preparation. The Taiwan stood nearly 2 meters tall, with slender frames and silvery blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Each had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and their hands featured 6 long, delicate fingers. They wore fitted uniforms of a material that shifted colors slightly as they moved. For a moment, both groups simply stared at each other. Captain Kim stepped forward first. "I'm Captain Kim of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We received your distress call." One of the aliens stepped forward in response. The translator device in Kim's hand buzzed softly as it processed the alien's speech. "I am Admiral Kang of the Taiwan Confederation. Your response to our distress signal is unexpected." The translation was slightly delayed but clear enough. "We did not believe any spacefaring civilization existed in this sector. We're relatively new to deep space," Kim admitted. "The Horizon is one of our most advanced exploration vessels." The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "This is your advanced technology?" Officer Su stiffened beside her, but Kim just smiled. "By our standards, yes. I understand we may seem primitive compared to your civilization." The Admiral gestured for them to follow. "Please join us in our meeting chamber. We have much to discuss." The humans followed, trying not to stare at everything they passed. The corridors were wide and curved, with walls that seemed to glow from within. Other Taiwan they passed stopped to watch the procession with obvious curiosity. In a large circular room with a view of the stars, Admiral Kang explained their situation, while his officers displayed holographic schematics of their ships. "Our quantum drive systems failed simultaneously when we entered this region of space," he explained. "We believe we encountered some kind of natural phenomenon that our sensors could not detect. Without functional drives, we cannot return home." "Captain," Kim studied the schematics. Despite their complexity, she could recognize the basic principles involved. "And you can't repair the drives yourselves?" she asked. One of the other Taiwan stepped forward. "I am Chief Engineer Yoon. The quantum resonance chambers were damaged at the molecular level. Repair requires specialized equipment that we do not have aboard." Kim nodded slowly. We'd like to examine one of the damaged drives. Our technology may be different, but sometimes a fresh perspective helps. The Taiwan exchanged looks that seemed skeptical even across the species barrier, but the Admiral nodded. Of course. 3 hours later, Captain Kim and her engineering team stood in the vast engine room of the Taiwan flagship. The quantum drive was a marvel of technology, a crystalline structure housed in a chamber larger than the entire horizon. Chief Engineer Lee from the human team whistled softly. It's beautiful, but I can already see part of the problem. The Taiwan engineer Yoon tilted his head. You can? Our diagnostics have been running for days. Lee pointed to several connection points. You've got physical damage here and here. Your diagnostics probably show the quantum field disruption, but they might miss the physical connections because your systems are so integrated. Yoon leaned closer, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. That is, how did you notice this? Lee shrugged. When technology fails on Earth missions, we usually can't call home for help. We learn to spot problems with our eyes, not just rely on computers. Over the next several hours, the human team examined more of the ship's systems. Despite the language barrier and vast technological gap, they identified several issues that Taiwan had overlooked. Not because they weren't intelligent, but because they approached problems differently. Back in the meeting chamber, Captain Kim addressed Admiral Kang and his officers. Your quantum technology is far beyond ours, she admitted. We can't fix the quantum resonance issues directly, but we've identified several supporting systems that we might be able to repair or bypass using our methods. Bypass? Engineer Yoon seemed confused by the concept. Yes. Create workarounds, temporary fixes that might get you moving again even, if not at full efficiency. The Admiral's expression was hard to read. You believe you can help us despite your technological limitations? Kim smiled. Admiral, humans have been fixing things with duct tape and creative thinking since before we had electricity. Sometimes the simplest solutions work where complex ones fail. Duct tape? The translator struggled with the term. You'll see, Kim promised. But we'll need more help. The Horizon carries only 20 crew members. Your fleet has thousands of vessels to repair. Admiral Kang stood looking out at the stars. What are you proposing, Captain? Let me contact Earth. Explain your situation. We have thousands of engineers, mechanics, and problem solvers who would jump at the chance to help an advanced civilization. We may not have your technology, but we're very good at solving practical problems. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. You would bring more humans? To help strangers from another world? Captain Kim nodded. That's what humans do, Admiral. When we hear a call for help, we answer it. For the first time, the Admiral's serious expression softened. Then we accept your offer, Captain Kim. And perhaps we have more to learn from Earth than I initially thought. As Captain Kim returned to the Horizon to send her message home, she couldn't help but smile. First contact had been made not through careful diplomacy or trade negotiations, but through one of humanity's oldest traditions, lending a helping hand to those in need. Earth was about to show the stars what humans could really do. Part 3. The Impossible Rescue. 2 weeks after Captain Kim's message reached Earth, the stars around the stranded Taiwan fleet came alive with new arrivals. 27 Earth vessels, everything humanity could spare from its modest space fleet, appeared at the coordinates. The ships varied widely in size and design, unlike the uniform elegance of the Taiwan vessels, but each carried something precious, human ingenuity. From the observation deck of his flagship, Admiral Kang watched with his second-in-command as shuttles began crossing between the human vessels and the Taiwan ships. They sent their entire fleet, Officer Bay remarked, her voice betraying her surprise. The Admiral nodded slowly. They did, even knowing how little they can gain from us technologically. Across the Taiwan Armada, airlocks opened to welcome the young human engineers, mechanics, and problem solvers who had volunteered for the mission. Nearly 5,000 humans had come. A tiny number compared to the 50,000 stranded Taiwan, but each carried tools, supplies, and most importantly, ideas. In Bay 12 of the Taiwan flagship, Chief Engineer Yoon watched with growing confusion as a human team unpacked their equipment. Instead of the sophisticated diagnostic tools he expected, they brought hand tools, spools of various materials, and containers of substances he didn't recognize. "What is this?" he asked, pointing to a roll of silvery material being handled by Engineer Park. The human smiled. This is duct tape. Captain Kim mentioned it to you. It's one of humanity's oldest engineering solutions. This tape can repair quantum technology." Yoon's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of skepticism. Park laughed. "Not exactly, but it might help us secure the bypass systems we're planning to install. Sometimes the simple solutions work best." Throughout the flagship, similar scenes played out as human and Taiwan teams began working together. The humans lacked the sophisticated knowledge of quantum mechanics that the Taiwan possessed, but they brought something else, a creativity born from centuries of making do with limited resources. In Engine Room 3, a human engineer named Cho stood before a damaged power routing system. The Taiwan engineers had declared it beyond repair without replacement parts from their homeworld. Cho studied it for several minutes, then turned to her Taiwan counterpart. "The problem isn't the quantum matrix itself," she explained. "It's these conduits that carry power to it. They're fried." "Yes," agreed the Taiwan engineer. "Without factory-grown crystal conduits, we cannot restore power flow." Cho smiled. "Maybe we can't restore it your way, but we can try mine." She opened her toolkit and pulled out several coils of copper wire. "This is how we handled power transmission before we developed more advanced materials. It's not as efficient, but it conducts electricity just fine." The Taiwan engineer looked doubtful. "Such primitive materials cannot handle the energy flows required." "Not alone," Cho agreed. "But if we run multiple lines in parallel and cool them with some of your remaining refrigerant," she sketched the design quickly on a tablet, "this might work long enough to get you home." Within days, a new rhythm emerged across the fleet. Human teams moved from ship to ship, implementing what they called field repairs, temporary solutions using materials at hand. The Taiwan, initially skeptical, soon found themselves impressed by the humans' ability to improvise. In the main hangar bay, Captain Kim met with Admiral Kang to review their progress. Holographic displays showed the status of all 73 ships in the Armada. 17 vessels now have partial power restored to their drive systems, she reported. "Not enough for quantum jumps, but enough for conventional movement." "Conventional movement would take thousands of years to reach our home," the Admiral noted. Kim nodded. "True, but our real breakthrough is happening on your science vessel, the Solar Wind. Would you like to see it?" In the engine room of the Solar Wind, a mixed team of human and Taiwan engineers surrounded what looked like a jury-rigged mess of equipment attached to the elegant Taiwan quantum drive. Engineer Lee bowed slightly as the Admiral approached. "Admiral, we've been studying your quantum resonance technology. It's far beyond our understanding, but we found something interesting." He gestured to a human woman standing by a computer terminal. "Dr. Jin, please explain your discovery." The physicist looked up from her calculations. "Admiral, your quantum drives work by creating a field that allows your ships to bypass normal spacetime. The cosmic anomaly you encountered disrupted that field generation. We can't repair the damage directly, but we don't have to." She brought up a display showing a modified field pattern. "By reconfiguring your remaining functional emitters and supplementing them with our gravitational field generators, we can create a hybrid system. It won't be as efficient or fast as your original drives, but our calculations suggest it will create a stable field capable of faster-than-light travel." The Admiral stared at the calculations, then at the messy arrangement of equipment. "This shouldn't work," he said finally. "It violates several principles of quantum field theory." Dr. Jin smiled. "With respect, Admiral, it violates several principles of your quantum field theory. We humans have a saying, the universe doesn't care what you think the rules are." For the first time since they met, Admiral Kang laughed, a musical sound that surprised the humans. Indeed, a wise perspective. He turned to Captain Kim. How soon can this hybrid system be tested? We're ready now, she replied. We've installed similar systems on 5 ships so far. The test was scheduled for the following day. The solar, wind, once detached from the fleet, would attempt a short jump of just a few light minutes, enough to prove the concept without risking the ship if something went wrong. As the countdown began, humans and Taiwan alike watched from their respective vessels. The solar wind's engines glowed with an unusual purple light, the result of human and Taiwan technologies working in harmony. A flash of light, and the ship vanished. Tense minutes passed. Then, exactly where and when it was supposed to appear, the solar wind flashed back into normal space. Cheers erupted across both fleets as the communication channels opened, and the solar wind's captain confirmed success. The impossible had been achieved. Humans had helped repair technology they barely understood, using materials that shouldn't have worked. Admiral Kang turned to Captain Kim, his 4 eyes focused intently on her. Your people have done what we thought impossible. With these hybrid drives we can return home, slower than before, but we will reach it. Kim smiled. We humans have a lot of practice doing the impossible, Admiral. It's kind of our specialty. Part 4. Cultural Exchange. The HFY mess hall of the Taiwan flagship had never been so lively. What began as separate eating areas for humans and Taiwan had gradually merged into a shared space where both species mingled freely. Today, the air carried unfamiliar scents as Chef Yu from the Earth vessel Pioneer demonstrated earth cooking, using adapted Taiwan food synthesizers. The secret is in how you combine the flavors, Chef Yu explained to a crowd of fascinated Taiwan. Your food synthesizers are programmed for nutrition, but they can do so much more. Admiral Kang stood at the back of the gathering, watching as his crew sampled the strange human concoctions. Their reactions ranged from surprise to delight, with more than a few grimaces mixed in. The humans called this spicy food, a concept entirely foreign to Taiwan cuisine. Interesting cultural activity, noted Officer Bay, appearing beside him. The humans place great importance on preparing food by hand, even when automation is available. The Admiral nodded. They find joy in the process, not just the result. It's a perspective we've lost over the centuries. As the repairs to the fleet continued, such cultural exchanges had become increasingly common. What began as a rescue mission had evolved into something more meaningful for both species. In another section of the ship, Engineer Choi stood before a group of Taiwan engineers, a manual navigation chart spread across a table. The elegant conference room with its holographic displays seemed at odds with the paper map, but the Taiwan leaned forward with interest. This is how we navigated space. Before we had advanced computers, Choi explained, using star positions, mathematical calculations, and these charts. But why teach us this primitive method? Asked one of the Taiwan engineers. Our navigation computers are still functional, Choi smiled, because computers fail. When our early spacecraft lost power, the astronauts could still find their way home using these methods. It's a backup that doesn't require technology. The Taiwan engineer who had spoken looked thoughtful. I do not know if I could pilot a ship without computer assistance. We're trained to operate systems, not to replace them. That's exactly why this matters, Choi said, his voice gentle but firm. Knowledge like this stays with you even when everything else fails. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Humans shared their approaches to problem-solving, emergency procedures, and manual skills. In return, the Taiwan opened their vast databases of scientific knowledge to their human rescuers. In the main library chamber, Dr. Jin pored over charts that mapped regions of space humanity had only dreamed of exploring. Captain Kim found her there late in the ship's night cycle, still working. Find anything interesting? Kim asked, setting down a cup of coffee next to the scientist. Jin looked up, eyes wide with excitement. Interesting? It's beyond words. They've mapped star systems we didn't even know existed. Their astronomical data alone would advance our understanding by decades, Kim smiled. Admiral Kang has offered to share their database with us, a thank you gift for our help. That's incredibly generous, Jin said, turning back to the display. "But I'm not sure they realize how valuable this is to us." "I think they do," Kim replied. "They just value different things." That evening, in a rarely used recreation hall, something unprecedented occurred. At the suggestion of Communications Officer Sue, the humans had organized what they called a cultural night. Now the large space was filled with members of both species as Lieutenant Park played a traditional Korean folk song on an acoustic guitar he'd brought from the horizon. The melody filled the room, simple, yet haunting. The Taiwan listened in, complete silence, their 4 eyes fixed on the humans' fingers as they moved across the strings. When the song ended, there was a moment of continued silence before one of the Taiwan asked, "What is the purpose of this music?" Park seemed surprised by the question. "Purpose? It doesn't really have a purpose, it's just beautiful. It expresses feelings that words can't capture. You create vibrations in the air for emotional response." Another Taiwan seemed genuinely confused. "Exactly," Park said, smiling. "Don't you have music in your culture?" "We have ceremonial sounds for official functions," Admiral Kang explained, stepping forward. "But nothing like this. Personal expression." He paused. "Would you play another?" As Park began a new song, Captain Kim watched the Taiwan's reactions. They sat perfectly still, absorbing every note with an intensity that suggested they were experiencing something entirely new. Later, as the gathering continued, a young Taiwan engineer approached Chief Engineer Lee with a small object, a mechanical puzzle made of interlocking metal parts that humans had introduced to the Taiwan crew. "I have been attempting to solve this for 3 days," the Taiwan admitted. "Our simulators cannot model its solution effectively." Lee smiled. "That's because it's not meant to be solved by a computer. It's meant to be solved by you, with your hands and mind working together." "But what is its purpose once solved?" the Taiwan asked. "To be taken apart and solved again," Lee replied. "Sometimes the journey is the destination." The Taiwan engineer looked down at the puzzle with new appreciation. "A physical challenge that exercises cognitive function. Efficient training," Lee laughed. "Or just fun. Not everything needs a deeper purpose." On the observation deck, Admiral Kang found Captain Kim staring out at the stars. The fleet repairs were nearly complete, with the hybrid drives showing promising results in all tests. "Your people have done more than save our ships," the Admiral said quietly. "I believe they have saved something in us as well." Kim turned, curious. "What do you mean?" "The Taiwan have been spacefaring for over 2,000 years, he explained. "In that time, we've advanced our technology to remarkable levels. But somewhere along that journey, we lost something essential. The connection between our hands and our minds, between our hearts and our work." He gestured toward the recreation hall where music could still be heard. "Your people create music with their fingers, fix machinery with simple tools, navigate by looking at stars with their own eyes. These abilities make you resilient in ways we are not." "We still have a lot to learn from you," Kim said. "Your scientific knowledge is centuries beyond ours." "Knowledge and wisdom are not the same," the Admiral replied. "I believe our peoples have much to teach each other." As they stood together watching the stars, human and Taiwan, the sound of laughter drifted from somewhere deep in the ship, a universal language that needed no translation. Part 5. A New Alliance. The main hangar bay of the Taiwan flagship had been transformed. The utilitarian space now featured a raised platform at its center, with the flags of Earth and the Taiwan Confederation hanging side by side above it. Representatives from both species filled the vast chamber, their conversations creating a gentle murmur that echoed off the metallic walls. 6 weeks had passed since the first human ships arrived to help the stranded Taiwan fleet. What had begun as an emergency rescue had evolved into something neither species had anticipated. Now, on the eve of the Taiwan's departure, both sides gathered for a formal ceremony. Captain Kim adjusted her dress uniform nervously as she waited, with the other human commanders. Across the hangar, she spotted Admiral Kang speaking with his senior officers, his tall figure easy to distinguish even among his own people. "Never thought we'd be here a month ago," said Engineer Lee, standing beside her. "Making history." Kim nodded. "When we answered that distress call, I was just hoping we could help them limp home somehow. I never expected—" She gestured around, at the gathering. The repair work had been completed 3 days earlier, with all 73 Taiwan vessels now equipped with the hybrid drive systems designed by the joint Human-Taiwan engineering teams. Test jumps had confirmed that while slower than their original quantum drives, the ships could safely travel at speeds that would get them home within months rather than millennia. A soft tone echoed through the hangar, and the crowd fell silent. Admiral Kang stepped onto the platform, followed by the highest-ranking human official present, Director Cho of Earth's Space Exploration Agency. "People of Earth and the Taiwan Confederation," the Admiral began, his translated words broadcast throughout the fleet into Earth via quantum relay. "Today marks the conclusion of what began as a simple rescue mission, but has become much more." Gestured to the human representatives. "When our fleet became stranded, we broadcast distress calls with little hope of response. The chances of another spacefaring species being within range seemed infinitesimally small. The chances of that species being both willing and able to help us seemed smaller still." The Admiral's 4 eyes swept across the gathered humans. Yet the people of Earth not only responded, they committed their resources, their knowledge, and their people to our aid without hesitation. They offered not pity or condescension at our plight, but partnership and respect. Director Cho stepped forward. "The opportunity to help the Taiwan fleet has been as valuable to us as it has been to them. In these weeks working together, we've gained insights into technologies we might have taken centuries to develop on our own. But more importantly, we've found friends among the stars." As the speeches continued, Engineer Park stood with a group of human and Taiwan technicians who had worked together on the propulsion systems. The formal words from the platform felt distant compared to the bonds they had formed over endless hours of problem-solving. "Will you continue working with hybrid systems when you return home?" Park asked his Taiwan counterpart. The alien engineer, Tay, made the subtle shoulder movement that humans had learned was the equivalent of a nod. "The High Council of Engineers has already approved research into permanent versions of the designs we created together. They are less efficient than pure quantum drives, but far more resilient to anomalies." "Resilience over perfect efficiency," Park said with a smile. "You're starting to think like humans." "Perhaps that is not a bad thing," Tay replied. "And many of our younger engineers have requested training in manual repair techniques. Your approach to technology has challenged our assumptions." On the platform, Admiral Kang had moved to the most significant part of the ceremony. "Today, I am authorized by the Taiwan High Council to propose a formal alliance between our peoples, not as mentors to a developing species as our protocols would typically dictate, but as equals with complementary strengths and perspectives." A surprised murmur ran through both the human and Taiwan contingents. While friendly relations had been expected, a formal alliance was unprecedented, especially given the vast technological gap between the civilizations. "Some among my own people questioned this decision," the Admiral continued. "They pointed to your limited technology, your short history as a spacefaring species, but I have told the Council what I have witnessed firsthand, that the measure of a civilization lies not just in its technological achievements, but in its character." He gestured to the repaired fleet visible through the hangar's force field. "When faced with problems our advanced society could not solve, you offered solutions using materials we would have dismissed as primitive. When our reliance on computers left us vulnerable, you taught us how to use our hands and minds together again. When we showed you star charts of regions unknown to you, you showed us music and art that touched emotions we had forgotten we possessed." Director Cho accepted a data crystal from the Admiral, the formal alliance proposal for Earth's governments to review. "On behalf of Earth, I accept this proposal with gratitude and optimism. While our official response will require consultation with all Earth nations, I can say that the spirit of friendship between our peoples has already been established by those who worked together these past weeks." After the ceremony concluded, smaller gatherings formed throughout the fleet as humans and Taiwan said their goodbyes. Many exchanged contact information through newly established communication protocols that would allow messages to be sent between their worlds. On the observation deck, Captain Kim found Admiral Kang looking out at the stars one last time. "Your fleet leaves tomorrow?" she said, joining him at the viewport. "Yes. The journey home will take 4 months with the hybrid drives." He turned to face her. "But it will not be the end of our connection with Earth," Kim smiled. "I hope not. I think we both have much more to learn from each other." "Indeed." The Admiral's voice carried a warmth that had been absent when they first met. "When we return to our homeworld, we will bring not just repaired ships, but a new perspective. For generations, the Taiwan have measured progress by our technology's advancement. You have reminded us that there are other forms of advancement equally worthy of pursuit. And you've shown us possibilities we never dreamed of," Kim replied. "Stars we didn't know existed. Physics we're just beginning to understand." The Admiral extended his 6-fingered hand in the human gesture they had taught him. "Then perhaps this is the beginning of something remarkable. 2 species helping each other reach their fullest potential." As Captain Kim shook his hand, the stars seemed somehow brighter through the viewport. Tomorrow, the Taiwan would begin their journey home, carrying with them not just the physical repairs humans had made to their ships, but something more valuable, a reminder of what it meant to face challenges with creativity and courage, and Earth would never be the same either. Humanity now knew with certainty that they were not alone in the universe. More importantly, they had discovered that even across the vast differences of biology and culture, the hand of friendship extended in a moment of need could forge bonds, stronger than the most advanced technology. It was, as Admiral Kang had said, the beginning of something remarkable,